Every nation has a story of its founding, of the events that took a disparate conglomeration of peoples and forged them into a civilization with a singular path. For untold years, the Ogres were nothing more than warring tribes, savages trapped in a constant cycle of warfare. The Great Battle of the Firemouth is perhaps the most important battle in the history of the Ogres, a defining moment where their mighty nation was forged and the world learned to tremble in fear of the Ogre Kingdoms. The spark for war that led to the legendary battle was an invasion by a vast horde of Black Orcs. After their escape from enslavement at the hands of the Dowie Tsar, the Black Orc tribes had encroached on the territories of the Ogres in the Mountains of Morn. Over the years, many Ogre tribes had fallen to the fury of the Greenskins, and the two adversaries had clashed in many battles. Though the Ogres had the advantage with their brawn, they could never eradicate the Orcs from their lands, as the Black Orcs were extremely cunning and fought with great skill and discipline in battle. Over the centuries, both sides had earned a grudging respect from their foes. The horde that now threatened the tribes of the Ogres, isolated as they were from one another, was led by a great Black Orc war boss, Ogre Ironskull. His rise to power had been extraordinarily fast, gathering many bands of Black Orcs, numerous tribes of wolf riders from the Darklands, and night goblins from Mount Greyhag to his banner. Under his rule, the Greenskins had expanded ever further into the domain of the Ogres, pushing out from their mountain stronghold on the slopes of Black Fang. The great war boss understood the weakness of the Ogres, how to exploit them, and how to claim victory. Many Ogre tribes fell to his onslaught, which only proved to bolster his numbers, and more Greenskins were drawn to fight under his banner. With the ever-swelling ranks, Ogre soon controlled the largest war ever to rampage through the Mountains of Morn. Divided, the Ogres could never hope to stand against the Greenskin tide. Only under the leadership of a mighty over-tyrant, one respected by the many tribes, could they resist. As Ogre was rampaging through the mountain ranges, Greasus Goldtooth had emerged as a leader of the Ogres, claiming the title of Over-Tyrant. But he was yet to unite all of the Ogre tribes, as the tyrants in the north were unconvinced of his right to rule. To claim the title, Greasus had performed many feats of strength that carried his name among the many tribes. He had slain the great ice drake, Jugrel, earning the title of Drake Crusher. He had single-handedly broken through the mighty stone gates of a dwarven stronghold, claiming the moniker of Gatecrasher. He had emerged victorious against Orc tribes on many occasions, but he still had not fully gathered the might of the Ogres under his command. Greasus, ever craving the dominion over all Ogres, saw Ogre's invasion as his opportunity to claim the respect he deserved and become the first true over-tyrant. It was simple. All he had to do was crush the Black Orcs in battle to prove his worth. To this end, the over-tyrant travelled across the length and breadth of the mountain ranges, gathering support. He visited many valleys, demanding that the tribes join him to break the back of the Greenskins' war. From the Ivory Road in the north to as far south as Noblar Country, he drew the numerous Ogre tribes to his side, until he had assembled a mighty host, an army of Ogres and beasts, the likes of which the world had never seen before. So vast were his numbers that the valleys quaked and the mountains shook at their advance north. Ogre Ironskull had continued his push deep into the Mountains of Morn, slaying tyrants of many tribes that had not yet joined the great Ogre force. When word of the Ogre coalition reached him, he began to make plans to confront the new over-tyrant, to draw the Ogres into a place of his choosing, where his war could crush them. Urk chose the ash-laden slopes of Firemouth, a volcano sacred to the ogres, as his battleground. It was there he planned to deliver the ogres a crippling blow, and claim the entire territory for his own. Urk had counted on the simplistic, even bullish tactics of the ogres in his battle plans. They would undoubtedly rush headlong up the steep slope of the volcano, and find themselves facing superior numbers and fighting uphill. He planned to unleash a sea of goblins to bog down the ogres, slowing his foes' advance and buying time for the jaws of his trap to close. On either flank, hidden from view by the curve of the volcano slopes, he would amass his orcs and wolf riders, ready to close in on his enemies. Then, for the killing blow, he and his legions of elite black orcs would charge down the mountain into the weary ogres. It was a plan that was forged from experience, fighting many ogre tribes. As the volcano hissed and boiled in the background, a deep rumble began to form. Some goblins looked around confused, thinking that the volcano was about to erupt and smite them. A few even began to break ranks before the officers reasserted control. The ogres were close now, the rhythm of their march and the bellowing of their war horns unmistakable as they echoed through the valley. With each passing moment, the battle to decide the fate of the Mountains of Morn drew closer, and the ultimate fate of Urk Ironskull and Grease's Goldtooth would be known. On the horizon, a wall of volcanic ash enveloped the approaching army, but through the dark soot, Urk could make out the ogre warriors and their mighty beasts. From his vantage point, Urk could see the anger of the ogre tyrants at the sight of their sacred grounds being occupied by the orcs. It seemed that his plans to goad the hot-headed ogres into his trap might prove easier than expected. Several tyrants and warriors began to charge toward the slopes, pulling ahead of the main ogre force. They were taking the bait. Then suddenly, a deep-throated bellow erupted across the valley. Urk couldn't make out the words, but their meaning was quickly realized as the ogres that had broken ranks halted their charge. The over-tyrant had spoken, and to Urk's amazement, the various tribesmen had responded immediately. Such command and discipline was unheard of among the ogres. This could change the course of the battle. The main body of the ogre force stopped at the start of the volcano's slopes, and Greasus called a war council with the tyrants of the various tribes. He recognized the advantage the greenskins had, holding the higher ground halfway up the slope. Sensing an ambush, he ordered scouts to survey the area, and informed the assembled tyrants of his plan. The great war beasts of the ogres, and the Mournfang cavalry of each tribe, would form a wedge at the front of the battle line. The front line would be the huge Stonehorns and Thundertusks, with the Mournfang cavalry ready to pour through the gaps. The rest of the ogre force would follow behind, allowing the huge beasts to punch through the orc lines deep into their formations. The assault would begin in short order, once word had returned from the scouts that were dispatched.